That was Morrissey. Every Day is Like Sunday. I love that song. Anything by Morrissey or the Smiths, that whole band during that whole generation, what they started and paved the way with, cool. I'm all over it. But that's not all I'm going to talk about. Welcome to the Horror of Babylon Tagalong podcast. And today I have I have a guest, my first guest. She will remain anonymous, no problem at all. No information will be given out. I respect that. But this podcast definitely a great one, really informative, and whoever's out there that it could help as well, just kind of put things in perspective a little, just from her upbringing, her siblings, being in the so-called truth. It is a lengthy podcast, but the whole time I was very intrigued and into it as well. It's a great story, epic journey ahead, and introduction into psychedelics and how it assisted and helped her continue her life. It's just a really, really good podcast up ahead. So let's just dive right in.
So I was born into the religion. My parents both were pretty heavy in it. So they had four children, and I was the third of the four. And they basically like we were just going to all the meetings. We had book study at our house. My dad was a minister at the time, never became an elder. And my mom, she never really pioneered or anything. She did when she said she did when she was younger, but anyways, my both my parents were just really harsh with their punishment. A lot of times punishment didn't fit the crime. We know we got threat for beatings all the time, and like I think that my parents both just had no idea how to deal with stress, so they took their anger out on their children. And a lot of times
Mm,
I remember with between my siblings and I, we'd always say like, what did we do wrong? Or that's not fair. And then we would just get like, go to your room, or, there would be no like sit down and talk to the kids, like there was no respect,
yeah.
like, hey, we're just kids, we're just growing, our brains are developing. It was like automatically everything had to be perfect. We had to be perfect looking,
Yeah.
perfect. And I realized too, like the more I read like other people's stories and hear about other people's stories growing up as a witness too, it's like it seemed like a lot of the parents were similar in that the parents were just so controlling and just were not respecting their children as just being children and not having boundaries. And it's just such a it makes sense kind of why people like certain parents or people chose the religion when they also had kids too. Is like they can continue the controlling at home or outside of the home, or maybe they're connected to being controlled because they're also controlling. I don't know, I'm still kind of working on that one, figuring that one out, because
Yeah.
it just seems like a lot of parents are okay with being controlled but also heavily need to control their mom. She would, like, as we got older, my sister basically rebellious, if you want to say that term, and just sleeping around, sneaking out of the house, doing drugs and stuff like that. And I hung out with her some time frame too. Just I was like really quiet and innocent, and I always followed the rules. I always try to do things right, and just because I was always like the people pleaser and wanted my parents to not be angry with me and stuff. Basically, there's a battle in the
Yeah.
house, and there's certain children who are like either defensive or offensive, right? So I was like,
Yeah,
well, I'm
one
gonna
or
be on my
the
parents' side. Yeah, one or
yeah.
the other, right? So two of
Damn.
us were, my older brother and I were the ones that were like, oh, we're just gonna follow all the rules and listen. We don't want to aggravate anybody. We just want to do what we need to do. And then the oldest and the youngest were like, forget this mess. Like, we're just gonna keep questioning our parents. We're gonna keep no questions, and we're gonna keep getting beat, and we're gonna keep standing up for what we believe in, kind of thing. And so,
Cool.
and also, yeah, and also when you have, like, which I now know, like growing up with a narcissistic parent or two, I had one. You either breed children who are codependents or also could be narcissistic themselves. So again, my older
Yeah.
brother and I, the ones that kind of conformed to everything, we were the ones that were like, we definitely became the codependent people, and we've been struggling like our adult life of like trying to get rid of that, people pleasing and all of that, because we're like, this doesn't serve us any purpose, and all you do is keep bringing people in your life that are really crappy. and your parents don't tend to set you up, like you're sheltered so strongly. At least my parents, we were extremely sheltered, and I mean just everything. Like I don't know. I
Oh
just
yeah,
remember, yeah, just but see in my mind, even though
definitely.
I wanted to conform and do everything right or whatever, I still was always like, this doesn't seem right. Like I hated going to meetings. I hated everything about it, but I just did it because what can you do? You're a kid. And I wasn't the rebellious type, so I wasn't going to talk against it or just,
Yeah,
leave
you
at age
just
16 or 17 like my younger
right.
brother and my older sister did.
You're just taught to
Yeah.
shut your mouth and repeat after me and continue.
Mhm. That's exactly right. And so, I mean, whether a family has a religion or not, there can be very parents that are very similar to that. Like you got to listen to me, abusive, but just adding like a mind controlled religion on top of it just adds so much more difficulty to your mental health and just how you're going to be as an adult, whether you stick with it or not. And you're not allowed to say like I just don't want to go to meeting today, or like I hate service. Like just explaining to your friends that are also witnesses, like why are we all doing this? If you question anything, it's like you're a bad person or you need encouragement or you're being weak spiritually. I mean, there's just so you just don't say anything
Yes,
because you're just like,
instantly.
yeah, you think you're the only person too, but then you probably like all these other people are thinking the same as you, just nobody's saying it, you know so
That's exactly it. It's like the
yeah.
elephant in the room, but no one speaks of it.
That's
And
exactly
that's the obligation, that's the control, that's the you're being good. That's what Jehovah wants, and it's oh my
yeah.
God, looking back at it, it is pretty nuts. And the strict part, my mom, that's exactly who my mom was. She did everything she
Mm.
could to keep me from hanging out with the neighborhood kids because she
That's
wanted
exactly right.
to keep the sheltered part. So she would buy me little car toy models to build, and
Mm.
it's like I didn't really care about cars. Like I'd
Oh.
rather play with a go-kart or something. I want to ride my bike. I
Yeah.
want to go out there. And it's
Yeah.
the more she tried to shelter me, the more I became a little fucker, I guess. Like she created it in a
Mhm.
way,
Oh,
but it
definitely.
sucks because she
Yeah.
didn't know better.
That's all they know too. And so it's not like you can look back and just be angry at your parents or angry that they taught you this or grew, raised that is causing you mental anguish as an adult. It's like that's all they knew. I mean, you can't be angry the rest of your life over something all they knew. That's just what they did. And
Yeah, they didn't know any better, and
I didn't know any better.
it's nuts.
Yeah. And so my mom got sickly at a younger age. She's like a hypochondriac. She just thinks that she has everything. Like she'll just see something on TV and be like, "Oh, I have that." Like we're just showing some medication and all these symptoms. She's like, "Oh, I think I have that." And I'm like, "Dude, you already have
Ah,
all these other things." Like, but I think she just, I think she used those as excuses and not have to do anything. She burnt herself out really bad because she was really OCD. Everything had to be super clean, and then she burnt herself out. Got pretty sick, I think, with certain things that was real sicknesses, but then she learned that, oh, I don't have to do absolutely anything as long as I can keep sick. And yeah, it sucks, but it just became her and who she is. She's a sickly person. And so as we got
oh,
older, like when my sister left the house, or like certain kids, were rebellious or left, whatever, they weren't witnesses anymore, my mom would just say, "Oh, if I was a pioneer, my kids probably be in the truth." I'm like, what are you talking about?
very, very
That's not how it
passive.
works. Yeah, it's like it doesn't work that way. You can't just say like, "Oh, I'm out in service all the time and I bring my kids with me." Then will like get closer to the truth and be a part of it too. Like I don't understand how a lot of witnesses
Yeah.
I realize have this like child mentality. Like they never allowed themselves to like grow mentally and like learn outside of this box kind of thing. So it's like you're talking to children, these adults, that just don't have a clue. And then they're all stuck. They're getting older in age with no retirement plans, barely made any money, living off the government, and then they're suffering and all their kids have to pay for them to just survive, because they don't have anything. It's so sad because they're just like, "Oh, why try hard? Armageddon's gonna come. I don't have to get a good job, or I don't have to put money into a retirement plan." But now they're all getting older, and all their siblings are having to deal with them, and then whatever. It's just complicated. But I think that, you know, my mom was taught the stuff she was taught as a kid, um, was like if the elders would say at the meeting, your kids are not in the truth, it's your fault. If you know, and that's there's no other fault other than yours. And also get your kids published to become publishers, get them to get baptized because it's a protection for them. So instead of my parents thinking, which I think a lot of parents are this way, you know, like instead of thinking like, where's my child at spiritually? Or like, how can I encourage them? Or are they doing regular Bible study without like pushing it on them? You know, it's more like pushing like the idea of getting baptized, like, oh, you need to get baptized. And I remember people in the hall, I think I probably was like, I don't know, 13, 14. There'd be people in the hall would be like, oh, are you baptized yet? I'd say no. And then they'd be like, okay, well, why not? Or, you know, and it's like, why
Yeah.
would that's so weird to even ask. Like, I would never think as an adult to like ask a teenager, like, in the hall, like, you see them all the time, you know their name, and to go up to them and just be like, "Are you baptized?" Like, for no reason at all,
Uh-uh.
not because you know, because like, I was a publisher at 9 years old, which I had no idea what that was about. My mom basically was just like, "You're gonna be a publisher," and I was like, "Whatever." Like, she wrote all my talks, she never taught me how to write any talks, so I was like, "Whatever." Like, I'll get up there and do the talk. She did that for all of us, you know, and my older brother, he was like a very sensitive person, and he always felt really like what's the word, like upset if he couldn't really do things properly, or like he was just more
Like a
emotional than rest
failure.
of us kids, like a failure, or like yeah, it was he just really struggled with it, and he became a ministerial servant. He got baptized before I did, and so did my younger brother too. I think he got baptized as well before I did. My sister, who's the oldest, never did. She was like really going between like, oh, I probably should be doing good, but I really don't want to. Should I be a part of this? I don't really want to. She had this constant struggle, and it's good that she didn't, because she probably would have gotten disfellowshipped, and then it would have been all crazy too. But anyways, both my brothers, they got baptized before I did, so they were over there all like acting a certain way. My brother became a ministerial servant. He ended up getting talked to and being brought down as a ministerial servant because there he worked at a restaurant, and his the owner or the manager of the place was a witness that was disfellowshipped. But and then so he worked there as a ministerial servant, you know,
Ah.
with this disfellowship manager. And then there was another sister in the hall who was working there as well, who was an active witness. So my brother and her were active witnesses, and their manager was this disfellowship sister. And so this sister, or this manager, one of the workers was leaving, and so she's like, oh, I'll have a after work meeting or a party, like when everything's all closed down, we'll have a party at the restaurant to like say bye to this worker. And so she invited everybody, even the ones, you know, my brother and this other sister. And the other sister was like, well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go, it's like, and that's not good because we'd be associating with, you know, outside of business, even though it's the workplace.
Yeah.
But my brother went and he thought nothing of it, right? But then he got told on for being there.
Ooh.
And so they, instead of like just giving him a warning and saying, "Oh, you didn't really know," they were like, "Well, you know, people look up to you. You're whatever." And you know, I forget the term, but anyways, they're
His
looking up to you because
his
you're a ministerial
privileges got
servant.
revoked.
Yeah, yes, he got revoked, and then
Revoked.
confused for a while. And then he slowly just started, like, he had moved out of the house. He was like hanging out with other kids that grew up in the truth, but like as a witness, but they weren't part of it. They didn't get baptized or anything. And so he was hanging out with them. They were just smoking weed. They were all hanging out together. So he kind of got out of it. And he just faded out. Like that's that. Like that nobody
Nice.
really came to like talk to him on a regular basis. Like none of the elders or anybody, like they tried dropping by the house, but like they were just like, yeah, we're busy or whatever. And that was it, you know. And then
Yeah.
my younger
Damn.
brother, he yeah, my younger brother moved out at like 17, same thing, hanging out with all those people and just doing what he wanted to do, and like you know, just faded out too. Just that was that for them. That, and they never went back. And then like at that point I was already
Nice.
I got baptized like I think 16 and a half, almost 17. And it was just because I felt like that's what I had to do. In my mind I was like, I think I'm ready to be baptized because I'm actually, this is my reasoning, I was like, I'm thinking about Jehovah every day. Like I wasn't doing Bible study, I was hardly going out in service. And then even when the elders have to talk with you about the questions at the back of the OD book or whatever to see if you're ready for baptism, you could study it
Yeah.
and study the answers ahead of time. But when you would sit down with them, you could just basically say what the answers are if you
Yeah.
memorized it or whatever, right? It's pretty
Yeah.
stupid. So
That's what I
actually,
did.
yeah, and they asked me, I think you're supposed to do that. Like, you're supposed to go over it, review it all, and then go over it with them. And so they asked me, who's the ruler of the world? And I was like, Satan. I mean, I didn't say Satan. I said, Jehovah. And they're like looking at me like, no. And I was like, Jesus. And they're like, no. That right there should have made them realize, like, this girl's not ready. Like, she doesn't even know a basic, Bible truth that we've been teaching, like, her whole life. She should know this. But they were like, they're just wanting to get these kids baptized because what? It's a protection, right?
Yeah.
Get them to be protected. They'll stay away from the world, and we'll keep them forever. I don't know, but
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah. And then
Some weird mysticism.
at the convention, it was like my baptism time, and then the baptism talk. They're like, so you went to Jehovah and you dedicated your life to him in prayer, and I was like, what? I was supposed to do that? I had no idea. So I was like, oh, shoot. So I just sat there, like, you always sit in the very front or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just sat there and I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it now. So I kind of just did this like silent prayer, like dedicated myself. And then, anyways, so flash forward, I just never liked any of it, any of it at all. I just was going through the motions because I felt like I had to. It was never really deep, something I really understood or deeply felt. And like when I pray to Jehovah, I never felt anything from it. Like I was like, this seems empty. Like it just doesn't feel like a true natural me of who I am supposed to be. Like there's no autonomy, and that's like human
Yeah.
nature is that we are striving for and needing autonomy, and you're not allowed to have that. And so when you have very strict parents and you have a strict religion that they're super sticking to, then you have no autonomy, and there's like a lack of boundaries with everybody in your life. They don't respect boundaries at all. And so you may grow up not knowing anything about boundaries and respecting other people. So people you bring into your life that are friends or relationships, you have these same patterns that you only know. And so it's just, and you ruin other people's lives. You ruin your own life because you're not going about things in a normal kind of way. And so I I got disfellowshipped, and then I um I got disfellowshipped, and then I ended up like just was going to all the meetings, and I was like trying to find things to keep me busy because it's like the first time I'm in my life that I actually found a bunch of friends. We were having fun. We drink on the
Yeah.
weekends. There was always somewhere I was getting invited to. This is like as a witness. Like as a witness, I finally had friends because I didn't have really friends almost my life. Like it was just bad. And so as a young 20 something year old, I just was having friends of mine who she was very comfortable with hanging out with a guy one on one, and I was like, what, why are you doing that? Like that seems really weird. And so I was like, oh,
No
well, if it's
chaperone.
okay, no chaperone, not even dating,
That's
like friends I'm
ballsy.
talking about, like a guy and a girl friends. And she would do it, and I was like, or she was okay with it, and I was like, that's really weird. So then I started doing it with this one guy, and then of course, like one day I looked at him and was like, man, I'm kind of attracted to him, and then the story continues.
Yeah.
We got messed up with each other, and then felt guilty, got to the point where I felt really guilty, and he did too. He was I think he was just a publisher. He was not baptized yet, but I was. And so he actually went to the elders and was like, told them. So I was like, told them because we were both kind of feeling guilty, but I guess he was feeling more guilty than I was. I don't know. So
Mm.
the elders like came up to me like, sound looks like we need to have a meeting, and I was like, yeah, I guess. And then just tell them the details. I remember too, it was funny because they were like asking me details about like my association with him, like being close to him, and he's like, did he penetrate you? And I didn't know the word like penetration, what that
Yeah.
meant exactly. And so I was just like, no. Because I was just like trying to like, I don't know. And then and then I got reproved and lost my privileges, and nobody knew. It was private because nobody knew. We were like super quiet. And then I didn't stay away from him. Like, and I knew if I go back and hang out with this guy, like something's gonna happen and I will be disfellowshipped. But I don't know. I just couldn't stay away. So after some time went by, then again, feeling guilty, talking to the elders, getting disfellowshipped. And then none of my friends, anybody that I knew close, had no idea what was going on or why. It was all still like just a private matter. But it's funny how that kind of stuff still comes out. Like elders are supposed to keep quiet, not tell their wives. But I found out later on there was somebody in my hall that had called an old friend of mine. It was like, guess what she did? And I was like, that's like nobody knows, like
Oh
except
my
for the
God.
elders. So the elders had to
Yeah.
have said something.
Yeah,
And
that's usually the
so
case.
yeah, it's something will come out, right? Because they just don't know how to. It's like one big family. They don't want to keep their mouths shut. They just want to talk about stuff and gossip and have information like that. That sounds juicy.
Yeah, and from a Jehovah Witness perspective, that's like giving them gold, as in like, because
I know,
most
right?
Jehovah Witnesses I knew are were super insecure, so this is like, hey, this
Yeah,
is a good target to put you down, to make me feel like, give me self-esteem by putting you down now because
yeah,
you fucked up or something. Like,
yeah.
so
It
I'm
could
sure
very
you
well
were a
be
good
like that.
target.
Yeah, because I was always like the one that just went to all the meetings, like a pioneer, anything big. But I still was there all the time, so people knew me well. They probably looked at me some innocent person. So hearing about me being disfellowshipped, or even knowing what happened, or who I was messing around with, they're probably like, "Oh wow, that's some juicy stuff right there." But
Yeah, that's funny.
uh, yeah, but like, so I was like, man, I'm gonna come back soon. I'm gonna make this happen, and I was just like trying to make myself busy. And that guy would still kind of come around, and it was just getting sour. Like it was no relationship. I find out like he would sleep with somebody else. Like it was weird. It was like I was like, just leave me alone. It was really weird. But anyways, finally, like I had actually met somebody. I got a new job somewhere way out of town, and I met somebody there, and I was just like wanting to just do fun things in town. I wasn't looking to have a boyfriend. I just wanted to be busy. So I was still staying very much a witness, just as a disfellowshipped one. Like in my head, I still was one. And so, yeah, so I
Yeah,
met
just
this
to
guy,
keep a foot
turned
in the
into
door.
kind of, yeah, because I was still making all the meetings. I wanted to go back. I believed in like the whole disfellowshipping system. I just wasn't like negative towards it. I was just like, it is what it is. I just got to
Yeah.
get through this. But it would be like years. I'd be going to all the meetings, and people would be like, what is wrong with her? Like why isn't she being reinstated? They just didn't understand. And so eventually, like I had broken up with this guy so many times because he was awful. He also was a narcissistic person, and he was very controlling and awful. A lot of times there was good times, but then there was really bad times. But I didn't realize all that stuff. I didn't realize until way later, like about narcissism and mind control and autonomy. I didn't like learn or research any of that till years later. So I was dating that guy for some time, broke up with him so many times, and he would just show up out of nowhere. Like he lives like an hour and a half away. He'd just show up and cry and beg to like for me to take him back and things like that. So I would just like feel sorry for him and be like believe him, like, oh, things will change, it'll be better. And so I would just get back with him over and over again. And finally, this went on for years. And finally I was like, okay, if I get back to with him one more time, then I'm gonna just marry him because the Bible says, like you need to stop
Yeah.
being with somebody, and if you can't do that, you need to just get married. And I didn't love this person at all. Was never in love with this person. Didn't really love them. And I was just he was a good person to be around because I had no friends. I had nobody. Everything was gone, right? So it's like you're
Yeah.
just gonna choose whoever you're comfortable with, even if it is a worldly person. It's hard to stop it because that means you have to stop completely for at least 6 months of nothing. And so just that happened. So basically, I got back together with him, and I was like, "All right." And I talked to him, I was like, "You want to get married?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well," he's like, "When?" And I was like, "I don't know, like next Friday or something." And he's like, "Okay." So, and he knew. I think he was 6 years younger than me, but I think the reason why he said yes to wanting to get married is because he knew that I would stop doing this whole thing like, "Oh, I don't want to be with you anymore. You're awful," and then get back with him. So this like marriage means that I'd be there forever, kind
You're
of
locked
thing in
in.
his head. Yeah, locked into this, right? So that's kind of why he just agreed so easily. So we just went to like city hall, got the stuff, got married, And then, yeah, and like soon after the marriage, I was already like, I want a divorce. So I started looking up like what it takes to get an annulment, like all this stuff. And like as witnesses you grow up to, there people say, oh, if you marry somebody in the world, you're just going to be miserable. And so it's like here it's like proving that, like, look, this worldly guy, we don't have the same belief system, and he's just so awful. It's like that's my own fault kind of thing, or I should have known better. This is what we're taught of what not to do, right?
Yeah.
And so
Damn.
getting married basically was very quickly able I was able to get reinstated because that was the only thing keeping me out for so long. And so the elders were like cool with me, like just got me reinstated quickly, and then married, just in a nasty, terrible relationship for, like a long time, breaking up with him a few times, him stalking me, and then getting back again. It was bad. And then I let that go on for almost 7 years. And then finally, I mean, I can go into super detail, but I'm not going to. But
That's a long time.
uh, yeah, almost 7 years, and then I just finally I had to find like a final straw, and I kept trying to find that he was sleeping with somebody or like like adultery or whatever. I kept like trying to find that out because I would see that he would talk and flirt with girls online and send pictures of himself and receive pictures from women. And so I was like, I need to find out if he's seeing somebody so I can get out of
This
this.
is your way out.
Yeah, it was my way out, right? And then you know what? I got to the point where I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm leaving. I don't care what people say. I don't care
Good.
what people think. I'm just getting out of this relationship because it's just I'm miserable. I've been miserable for so long. I don't know what happiness or joy is. I don't think I ever really did, like in my whole life. I didn't even think it's something that's real, and that just made me stay in that bad mental space for a really long time. And I just had found one thing, like I saw him something like that he had been talking to somebody again, some girl, and I was like, all right, I'm done, I'm leaving. And so he, uh I he didn't believe me because normally would take him back, but this time I was serious, and then I got divorce paper, sent it to him, all that kind of stuff. And then we shared nothing ever, which was good because it was an easy split. Never had children, didn't buy a house together, didn't have anything in our names together, nothing. And
Good.
so it was just an easy split, yeah. And then after that, I kind of just started talking like to people online. Like I joined some chatting site where you can learn like different languages with people. You help them with English, you learn their language. Like, it's like this back and forth. But then that's when like the real me was able to come out. The person like who I really am and just wanted to do, like that I found exciting without being guilty or feeling bad about it. So I just was like just chatting with different guys and women, men, whatever, just chatting to them. And then there was people that were like, um, I was not, like I said, I didn't feel guilty. I was fine with it, with whatever I did. And then I would actually go to that country, meet up with these people. And it was just some really fun times. It was like I finally got to be like the thing that a lot of teenagers do or be themselves, or even young adults. It's like I finally got to do that in my like later 30s, mid to later 30s.
That's cool. That's super cool. You got to
Yeah,
travel and
yeah.
all and get to experience that as well.
Traveling, I was like meeting different people. I even was like, you know what? I'm gonna just, even though I wasn't really going to meetings or assemblies and things like that, I just was like, I'm gonna go to the Kingdom Hall here in this country because I always feel like it's interesting to visit another congregation in a different
I'll see what
or
culture's
Kingdom
involved
Hall.
in there.
Yeah, see what kind of stuff, who's there, like how different is it? How much of the same is it? So I did visit and I met some nice people. Only went once. And I was just and I kept thinking too when I was there because I stayed for like a while. I stayed for 2.5 months, and I was just like, why did I do that? Like, because the next day here I am like sleeping with some random dude that I just met.
Yeah.
So I was
That's
just
so
like,
cool. That's all part of the experience.
I didn't feel guilty. I was just like, maybe I don't know. Should I have gone? Like, I was just questioning it all. And I was just like, whatever, it is what it is. Like, I just let myself be. I let myself do whatever I wanted, without anybody behind, like telling me, not even my own brain telling me, like, that's wrong, or you shouldn't do that, or you should do this instead. That was all gone at that point. I don't know how it just left. I just was done. And then,
Nice. That's good. That's real difficult because,
yeah,
like, growing up heavily Jehovah Witness, that religious trauma it's this mental baggage you carry with you. But that's sweet that
yeah.
you overcame it right away.
Yeah, it just kind of happened. I think because I just, yeah, I like still made it seem like to everybody I know, family and friends, that I was a witness. But my parents, because I was still living at home with my parents, so they noticed I wasn't really making it meetings. I would like try to find excuses or like say I'm going to work. Like I'd book work during that time frame or something like that. And then I
Oh
remember
yeah.
my mom's like, "Oh, your dad wants to talk to you," and I was like, "Oh man, that's something serious," because he never, cares to talk to me. So I was like, he's like, "What's going on?" Like he was really nice about it. He's like, "What's going on? Are you okay? Just seeing if you're like if you're discouraged or something." And I was just like, "No, I'm just kind of made it really light." I don't remember what I said, but it was just something really light, and it wasn't. I didn't give any like something positive to look forward to, like, oh, I'm just kind of taking a break, and I'll be, like, or I didn't say anything. I don't remember. It was just very basic, and they just accepted whatever I said, and that was it. It was like very brief and very basic, and so it just, yeah. But I think that people in my life realize, like, I don't think she's really a witness or trying anymore like she used to, but they don't want to ask because they know if they ask or if they find out
They're
the
scared to
truth,
find out.
they're scared to find out. So it's better just not to say anything, right? And that's what I think kind of
Yeah.
happened. And there wasn't any elders from my hall that were trying to contact me, like, hey, I noticed you've been inactive, like no service time. And I was like, man, I think that they just like, oh, they're like okay with it. Or like they're not, they just like said, just leave her alone. In their minds, they were like, there's no reason to be so strong about trying to get this one back in the Kingdom Hall, you know?
Yeah.
And I moved far away anyways. Like I moved in another place in my state. So it was kind of like my plan was to go to the hall near me, bring my cards over there, but then give them a different phone number and address, not an accurate one, at the new hall so that they couldn't find me when they're realizing this person's in our hall now, but where is she? And then they couldn't find me if they tried to come to my place, the address on record, they wouldn't be able to find me. And if they tried calling me, they wouldn't be able to call me. So that was kind
Yeah.
of my plan. But I just didn't want to go into a new hall. I just didn't want to go and do the whole process, bringing my cards over. See, oh, she hasn't been turning in time for so like years, like she's inactive, and then try to talk with me or encourage me or whatever. But I just thought I could go to maybe two, maybe three meetings, bring my cards over, and then disappear, kind of thing. And so I just never did it because I didn't want my old hog that I've been in my whole life. I didn't want them to be questioning me, but so I figured it'd be better to move my cards. But
Yeah.
I didn't end up
Remove
doing
your
it, and they weren't
records little by
questioning me.
little.
Yeah, so
Uh,
my records are still in my old hall, far away, and my mom still goes to that congregation. I'm surprised they don't talk to her about it, about me or anything. They probably do, but my mom doesn't tend to say anything. But um, one time I went to visit, my mom was like, "I just need to talk to you," and I was like, "Oh man!" And she's just like
here it
asking me
comes.
about being like a witness or something. And I just kind of, I don't remember what I said again. I don't know why. Like these memories don't stick with me, but I just said something like to the fact where she kind of knows that I'm not going to meetings. I think I might just said, "Oh, I'm just like taking a break," or "I'm just discouraged." I don't know. I made up something, and she was fine with whatever I said. But it wasn't good on her. Like it wouldn't be like positive news for her, but it wasn't so
Yeah.
negative either. So I think that's just how it is. I think she's just at the point where like don't even ask because yeah. But sometimes things will come up when I talk to her, like the whole situation about like the elders holding back, like not talk going to the police when there's some sort of molestation case or things like that.
Yeah.
And there was even a case like that in my hall. There was a brother who
Oh, damn.
was
Even at your
actually,
local.
yeah, yeah. So he was actually in the system, like in the police system as
Damn.
a child. Something I don't know. It's on record. You could look him up, find
So
his
on Google
address,
Maps,
find his
his
name.
house comes up with a red dot.
Probably, yeah. It probably would pick up on him. But the thing was, is like we didn't know as my family, we didn't. I was like 18. I was like, wait, I was 20 years old, and my parents started using him in the house to like do housework, like fixing up things. We had a lot of stuff that needed to be fixed up. So he was like totally happy to come in, but he started really eyeing me and paying attention to me. And it was just getting really creepy. And I started being like kind
Damn.
of rude to him when he'd come over. He was over like every day. He'd say stuff like, "My mom, my wife and kids aren't even as nice to me, or they're not helping me with this. You can help me." It was
Jeez.
like kind of a grooming thing, even though I was already like, 20 years old. It was still kind of
Yeah.
grooming like, and it was creeping me out. And then I tell my mom like, and then I kindness to him in front of my mom, and my mom told me later on, "That's really mean. He's really nice. Like he's doing all this work in the house." And my niece was like, we had my niece over all the time, and she was probably like 2 or 3 at the house. So it got to the point where he was writing me love letters, and like
Oh man.
he went into my bedroom and was like picked up like a journal I had and read it, and then he like talked to me about it later on. So finally I told my parents like everything, and they were like, "Why did you say this earlier?" And I was like, "Because you
Jeez.
guys were happy with him being in the house, like
Yeah,
he was doing all
taking
this
his
stuff for
side.
us, taking his side." And then and then I so we talked to the elders, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna make him go into a different congregation. Like he can't be, and we're gonna put in the notes that he can never be in the same hall as your family, like you guys." My mom was so mad because she was like, he was in our house where we had a younger kid, and like the elders
Yeah.
never told families that have kids like, "Hey, be careful with this one brother. I noticed that he's like at your house a lot." There was no warning, there was no nothing. Something could have
They didn't
happened.
care. They're incapable of
They just,
caring.
yeah, they didn't really care. And so my mom was upset about that. This is My mom was kind of like, for most of like my life, she was kind of like you know, physically in, or mentally in, physically out kind of thing. And so she was like she could ease she didn't go to any meetings, didn't really listen in. She just like she was just thinking about her sicknesses and her illnesses so much that she just didn't do that up until like a few years ago. Something clicked, and now she's like super witness, like, you know. Which is annoying. It's
Super
like bad
devout.
timing, yeah, so annoying. And so basically let's see where I'm at now. So recently I had talked to my mom about, like, you know, I was like, you know, they're selling, like, a big part of selling you know, Bethel or whatever the buildings that they had was to pay off people who, there's like the legal stuff going on for paying off people who where the elders got into legal trouble and not
Yeah,
going
I've
to the
read a few of
police.
those articles.
Yeah, and so I had heard that, you know, that they were needing to pay these people off millions of dollars, and there's lots of money for court fees and lawyer fees.
Yeah, all
So
of
I
that.
told her about that, and she was just like defending, like super defending everything. And I was surprised because she was molested herself, not by anybody, just from her own uncle, not a witness, when she was a kid. This is before she was even a witness. And so I was just surprised that she's like taking the sides of the elders in the society, like, because she should know better. She's dealt with something
An
like that as a child
understanding, yeah,
herself.
damn.
Yeah, right. I was surprised because that there was a recent was it the assembly or convention, there was a talk on like how the brother was saying how that those cases, oh, you got to be careful, people are making up stuff trying to get the elders and other brothers in trouble.
So now it's
Remember
all
that there was
fake.
like a talk kind of recent, like a year ago, where the brother from the governing body was saying that, and I was just like, so you're
Damn.
so you're not
They
even
definitely put
gonna
out that?
acknowledge. Yes, I was like, you're not even gonna acknowledge that there are people though that did get molested. Like, why are you just
Yeah,
trying to
for
defend
real.
only the other? It was weird. I was like, wow. So my mom and I, we watched it together too, and that's why I think I brought it up, because I was, that doesn't even, that's craziness. So um for a while now I've been kind of thinking like, you know what? I've been working since I was 20 years old, actually. I've been like working on myself, bettering myself and my mental health. And there's only so far I can get, you know. There was even like, I've seen some psychologists, and there's nothing I got from them. Like, I just felt like it was a sounding board. And I was like, I've worked really well. I like where I'm at right now in life, but I feel like there's something deep inside me that's not being released. And it's like something deep, subconscious, unconscious, I don't know, but pretty much in my brain, my conscious brain, I'm always like thinking like, "Oh, why is this still bothering me? Why am I being triggered by this thing that's learned behavior? These different things that I don't like about myself." It's like,
Yeah.
in I would tell myself, "I'm fine, I'm over it. I don't care anymore." But something deep inside of me, deep in my muscle, my tissue was stuck, and it cared. And it would affect, my body would react in a flight or fight type of situation, even though there wasn't a reason to. And so having like, I realized over time, like, oh, I have anxiety, oh, I have this and that. And so the longer I've been away from my family, been away like where there are witnesses around, like everybody knows who I am, like you're afraid, like, oh, I'm going to bump into somebody out in public. they're gonna ask me how
Yeah.
come I haven't been to meetings. Like I didn't want to have to deal with all
Ah,
that, but I wanted to move far away anyway because I hated where I lived in general. That's what people need to do. If you're trying to fade out, you need to move far away from the city you're used to that
definitely.
people know you, because you should be able to freely date and go around the city and not think, oh, is somebody gonna see me in a car with somebody of the opposite sex? Am I gonna, if you
Uh-huh.
wanna, it's better
I know
just to
exactly
fade
what
out,
that's
I
a
think, than yeah. It's better to fade out.
should live that way, and you're right. It's definitely better to fade out so you can actually like enjoy your authentic self, like who you are, rather than always having this dark cloud over your head of like this surveillance camera watching you at all times type of shit.
Yeah, you're gonna feel like that if you stay in the same city that you're trying to, from the same hall of all the same people you know, especially if your city is smaller. Because I remember for me,
Yeah.
my city is smaller and I bump into people regularly. And so it's just nice to not have to think about that. You could be yourself. You didn't have to go to the elders and say, I want to disassociate, or I'm doing bad, just disfellowship me. Like you don't have to, you don't want to have that title over you the rest of your life if you don't have to. I know
Yeah,
some
for
people
real.
will, like yourself, right? So you were young, you got this fellowship, that's the way you thought you had to do it. But as I got older, I realized like, oh, there's such a thing as just fate not going. And if the elders like
For
questioning
real.
you, like they text you and they're just be like, I'm busy. Like, what are they gonna do? But we were trained
Exactly.
to like you feel guilty or you're doing something wrong to talk to them. If they call you, you don't say no, you make time to talk to them. But I was just like,
Yeah.
no, you don't have to do that. Like, I kind of just learned it on my own. I was like, no. And I even told a friend of mine, she was talking about stuff, and I was just like, why don't people just fade out? Why are they even going to the elders? And like, if they're not planning on being a witness anymore, or they're questioning things anyways, just get out of there. You know, move too. Just move far away. Try to like, I
Yeah,
mean, I
very
know those are
true.
not easy, some circumstances to just pick up and move, but I mean, if you just got to plan it, whatever you plan on doing, it'll happen. If you make it, if you think about it long enough and you do things to make it happen, it'll happen.
Yeah, I just got to give it that want. So I
Yes.
do have one
And
question.
yeah,
So when you were traveling, when you said you mentioned you went to wherever country and you were just exploring, checking it out, having a good journey.
yeah, yeah,
Was that before or after you mentioned you used psychedelics in this journey?
yeah. So that's where I'm getting at right now is like how I got
Cool.
into psychedelics. I was I I met some guy on a dating app, and then I asked him because I smoked weed a little bit as a teenager, and I did a little bit of acid, but the LSD really didn't hit me in a way that like
The
than
mushrooms
I thought
did.
it should.
Ah,
I wanted to get a hold of mushrooms when I was younger too, but I never got a hold of them because I just wanted the trip. I just wanted to see what other people are talking about, the hallucinations and all that. And
gotcha.
but it never fully happened. But yeah, this boyfriend that I have, I asked him, I was like, do you ever smoke weed or do anything? He's like, yeah, I smoke weed sometimes, but he never goes and buys it himself. And I was like, let's try together. Let's go to a dispensary. I want to like get into it again because the last time I did it really was when I was really young. And so, that's where I started like getting into a little bit of drugs. And I just was like, man, I like this a lot. Like the way it just, like relaxes your brain, makes you think different perspectives. Like I was saying, like there is something deep inside of me. I could not figure out
Yeah.
how to release it or what it is. And so I started looking into and talking to people about ayahuasca and going to like Peru or something or Costa Rica. I don't know where, Peru mostly, that they do it. And it's funny because like on Instagram they have advertisements. If you like click on stuff, they'll catch your algorithm and they'll start shooting like
What?
retreats and things like psychedelic retreats to you, even though it's illegal in this country.
Yeah, in the
But there was one for
U.S.
ayahuasca in Peru, and it was like $3,000 trip. Like that's not including your flight. So you get over there. There's a shaman, and I was like, I was reading all about it. And I was like, you know what? I don't like the idea because I don't mind going alone. I don't mind. I've traveled alone in other countries. I don't mind going alone. But with ayahuasca and shamans, the shaman will drink take the ayahuasca as well. And so there isn't anybody that's sober in the group that's facilitating and helping others. And so you don't know, it's the unknown. You have no idea where your mind is going to go.
Yeah.
And also because of being trained as a witness, like, oh, if you do drugs or if you do these things, the demons can enter into your mind
Yeah,
and
the
make you
spirits
think
and
things and stuff.
demons.
Right. So like I don't believe that, but I still was, what if when I'm in it, seeing that and I start going back into like, oh, it's the demons, they really do exist or something like that. So it's like
Yep.
it's the whole unknown. So it's scary. Like, where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do? And ayahuasca, you're supposed to purge. You're supposed to literally throw up, and that's purging out garbage, old trauma, whatever. And I was like, that does not sound fun or nice at all. And so the whole experience, I was just like, I don't know, man. And so I guess because I clicked on ayahuasca retreats on Instagram, one popped up for more of local kind of. I mean, it's still a little while away, but of a retreat that was mushrooms. And it was it was like this company that was very meticulous about how they went about it. And so I didn't do a lot of research about mushrooms, or like I didn't go into deep into it until after the retreat, but I immediately signed up because I was like, I think this is what I need. Like, it's closer to me, the country. They're doing like tests. You're seeing a psychologist before and after. You're talking to all these people about it. You're filling out all this paperwork about where you're at now. How do you see yourself? What do you want? What do you need? And so there's tons involved. It's not like, hey, give me money. It was like $3,000. And then there was, you could add on a cranial sacral technique massage, cranial sacral work actually do. So I'm very familiar with the work. So I added it on. I figured, what's another $200? If they think that it's going to go along and help with the mushroom medicine, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
so it was like, I think there was being all women. The owner of the company, there was two owners. There was a man and a woman. So he was the only man there, which was fine. Like, I'm cool with any male energy, male, female energy, whatever. But it was like seven of us women. We all like haven't done anything like this before. It was a macro dose of mushroom, and then but it was 2 days. I picked the 2 day one. So you do it 2 days in a row, and then the first day you would do MDMA with the mushrooms. Apparently the MDMA pushes like through breakthrough that you need. The mushrooms don't quite get maybe on the first day. And so of the
Cool.
macrodose. So I've newer done MDMA before. I didn't care to like have to take like a chemical, but if that's what they felt like would work, I just went along with it. And so it was just like they went along with what Johns Hopkins is doing, and they have a whole program where they are doing studies. And what they do is which you probably know, I don't know how much you know, but they have you just lay down on a mat or a bed. You put a cover over your eyes, and
Ah,
you listen
yes.
to, yes, you listen to, John Hopkins has like their own psychedelic music on Spotify. And so we all had these like Bluetooth headphones on. We're all listening to the same thing at the same time. We chose to either drink the mushrooms or eat it, and I chose to drink it like in a tea form. And and just went through our journey, and I could hear, like, for some reason, for me, I still was somewhat in my logical conscious brain, but it was like, but for the most of the time, which I actually liked, because then I didn't feel like you just and later, 3 hours later, like, where was I, what happened, and you have other people telling you what you did or
Yeah.
what you said. And so I was still conscious. All the other women, most of them were older than me, like kind of a lot older than me, and I could hear, like, one lady immediately was like, I gotta puke, and I was like, oh crap, am I gonna throw up? Like, what's going on? But anyways, like, what happened with me is I was able to, I don't know how to explain. So that first day, I I was seeing, like they say, you see colors, you see music. So I was seeing like all these patterns and movements, and I would see some darkness come in, and but instead of being scared of these darkness, like, I'd see eyes. It was like kind of like you're in a cave and it's all colorful, and there's like things appearing at you and then going away, and there would be like eyes or dark. Sometimes there'd be dark images staring at me, and just like as if I was just walking through a cave kind of by myself, but with all of that going on around me. And above or in around me, I would see some dark body and some darkness kind of, but then
Dang.
instead of being
Sounds like
scared of it,
sounds like a Disneyland ride of your subconscious or something.
yeah, yeah. Instead of being scared of it, the music was what made this all happen. Because when the patterns of the music would change, it would be different imagery. So, and
Oh.
different colors and different geometric shapes would come along depending on the way the music was. And so music was specifically designed to be listened to during like a macrodose, basically. And
Yeah, that's
so,
cool.
yeah. And so I was like looking at the darkness, and instead of thinking like, oh, that's scary. Ooh, what does that represent? I was just seeing the light in the darkness. It was like what was ugly was not really ugly and scary. It was fine. It's like and then it made me realize in the world there's stuff that can be scary and there's stuff that's great. And why are we, it's okay to that scary stuff is there. There's a purpose for the negative and the ugly. There's a purpose for it, but you don't have to be bothered or scared by it. It's okay. It's there for a reason. So that's kind of like one kind of epiphany I came across. But as it was like things were done in stages. Like it was weird. It was like one stage would kind of go over, and then I would be in a different time mind frame, and then like there was a point where like everything was an epiphany. I was just laying there, just going like, huh, like out loud. I just go, huh, like that's interesting. Kind of like I wouldn't say anything, but I would hear around me like somebody screaming, somebody else repeating themselves, like in real life, the other people on their journey, right? So they were like, I was hearing all
Yeah.
this stuff, and for me, I'm very like empathic and like intuitive, so and curious. So I'm always like, man, I think it'd be better if I was alone in a room because I'm like concentrating. Like sometimes I'd be like out far deep into something on my journey, my trip, and then I would hear something, and then I would like my conscious brain would like want to listen more and try to figure out what are they going through, what's going on, because I'd hear somebody repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And I was like, man, they're really in it, like deep. And so basically what it's doing is it's just like releasing old trauma patterns. And there's like massage body work that I've been taught and that I practice that does the same thing, but it could take several sessions of a lot of money to like get things released out of your, trauma and PTSD and things like that, like get it out of your system. And it's literally
Oh.
like a somatic that's stuck in your tissues. They call it the issues in the tissues. So it's like
That's a good
stuck,
one.
any trauma. Yeah. Even if you fall and hurt yourself, there's something related to that. It could be like an emotion related to that. Now it's stuck in your body, stuck in that injury, stuck forever. And and so the mushroom medicine basically is releasing all that narrative you've ever been taught, all the narrative you're still telling yourself because of what you're taught. It makes you be
Hmm.
your authentic self. It dissolves the ego, so it's like it literally gets rid of all the crap that I don't want to say you, but like for me, I always say you and other people, but I have to
No,
remember
go
to relate it
ahead.
back to
I
me.
definitely
So for me,
understand.
yeah, so everything I've been like 20 plus years working on myself to release and get rid of, it just got over in those 2 days. I would say it finished like all gone in the first day, but by the second day of learning more and going through the whole thing again with just the mushrooms, not the MDMA, it was like I remember taking the headphone. I remember when I was finished, like it was kind of like it's gone out of my system mostly. I took the headphones off and I was just like, I get it. I think I might even said it out loud. I was like, I get it. I
I
finally
get
get it
it.
all. I completely understand everything about everything. And I was like, I will never forget this. Now it was just like an amazing feeling because I finally got the perspective I needed of human beings and being on the earth and just all this stuff. Um, but I understood then, like because I think on the second day I was kind of like floating. I wasn't technically really, but it was kind of like I was floating above the earth, even though I wasn't. It was kind of like, but I was looking down at humans on the earth, and I just thought, people are just going through life because that's all they know, and everybody feels like we're suffering. It's
Yeah.
just suffering, and getting that perspective and that idea helped me better understand to be more connected with other humans instead of feeling so weird and different from them. Um, and but so the main thing that I wanted to talk about before I'll finish up, but was the thing I think that was deep inside of me got released. And what it was is I didn't know how much, I guess, being beaten by my parents, especially my mom, really like was stuck inside of my body my whole life ever since then, because I didn't know, like I knew like there was times where I would think about it or talk about it and really bother me, and I really wouldn't want to talk about it even. And then so during the first day on the journey, I wasn't in my conscious brain at the time. So I didn't know what was going on, and I was slowly kind of like in a sense waking up, like almost like I was in a dream state and sleeping, but I wasn't sleeping. But then I kind of came back to my conscious like you do when you're slowly waking up. And I realized I was involuntarily squeezing my eyes and turning my head from one side, squeezing my body, squeezing my hands, squeezing my eyes closed. Even though my eyes were closed, I was squeezing them tight. and then I would release, and then I'd be fine for like maybe 10 seconds, and I would turn my head to the other side, close my eyes really hard, squeeze my body again, and it was all involuntary. I let myself do it. I let myself go through whatever physical things I needed to go through, and then I would take my fists, and then I would bring them up to, I had an eye mask on, so I bring it up to my eye mask and rub my eyes at the same time, like as if I'm rubbing tears with my fist. And I remembered as a kid I used to do that. Like I'd cry a lot because life wasn't fair or whatever. You'd get beat, or my sister was just terribly awful to me, so I would be like getting it from my parents, but then also getting it from my sibling that I shared a room with. And so
Yeah.
I remembered like that moment during the retreat, that journey. I remembered, like, I thought in my head, like, oh yeah, I remember being a kid and like taking my fist and like wiping my eyes with my fist instead of like my hands just wiping it from my cheeks. I would rub my eyes both at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, so it was like I went back into my childhood at that moment. It was like I went back there and I was releasing that old deep somatic of something that I didn't know meant, like, subconsciously was bothering me. And so it kind of went on for a while, and I let it keep going on. I kept turning my head to one side, squeezing. It was like I was being hit, but there was no pain. I didn't physically feel it. I wasn't scared, and I wasn't sad during that while that was happening. I was letting it happen. And so but it was nice because it wasn't scary or anything. And so I did that for a while, just back and forth, squeezing my eyes, rubbing my eyes. And then finally it just went away. And then I was on to some other sort of trip of something else I'm thinking of. And that's when I realized, like, that was it. I think that is what I needed to release. And that would have taken me so long, so long with other
Naturally.
methods to get rid of that. Like, and it just happened in that one weekend. And then I had the cranial sacral work done after. And and all it is just holding like two hands, different parts of your body, and you're just holding different areas. And so once she got to like my heart area, it just felt like crying. And so I let out crying, which I don't hardly ever cry. I never feel the need to, and I'm not a very super emotional person, so I just never feel the need to cry, really. And so it was just nice to have that release. And she's like, what are you thinking about? What's going on? And I was just like, I think I was still kind of back in that space of being a child still. I was still like embodying myself as a child at that moment. And I just said, I'm just sick of like not being listened to. She's like, well, what do you want to, like, what is it you want to be heard? And I said, I just want a normal conversation without any judgment. I just, I was like, that's what I think my inner child's been needing, is just like a normal friend that there's no judgment. You can just talk freely, and they're not going to be
Yeah.
mean to you one day and nice to you the next. And so that's all I ever knew, was people like that in my life. And
So
so all I wanted was just a good friend.
just all in all, in
So
nature, it's like what you should have been getting
correct.
is like
That's exactly
what we
right.
all lacked. It's insane. It's funny.
Yes.
It's fascinating. It's a beautiful thing how
Yeah.
you attached, like how you went back to that moment with your
Yes.
fists, and like in a way your younger self is finally at rest or something. Like you
Yeah.
made
That's
it. You
exactly right.
like a video game, XP points.
Yeah, like
That's
XP point.
cool.
I know, you leveled up, right? It's like
You
leveling
leveled
up,
up
really.
when
So
most people stay.
after, yeah, that's the part that I don't understand. I never could understand people who just stay stuck and don't realize where they're at. They just keep on with whatever they're doing and thinking, and they're miserable. And it's like, there are
Uh-huh.
like I've always been a natural problem solver for myself or others. Like, it's very easy for me to problem solve and to help others problem solve. And I don't know how that's not a thing for other people, but it is. And I feel sorry for them. But ever since
Yeah.
my experience, I've been like telling people who I know would be okay with hearing it. I've been telling them my experience, and it's just been like, they're like, wow, like I want to do that. And then also, like, before I even did it, I was already thinking, like, I want to work in this. If it's really something that helps people in the mental health field to get rid of old trauma
Oh.
and be better people, I want to work in this. And so that's why also I wanted to do it, because I wanted to experience it before I really thought more about how that field is. And I know since it's starting to become more legal, and it's going to eventually be
Mm-hmm.
something like ketamine already is that. There's people doing
Yeah.
ketamine therapy, that's legal. It is medicine, it's chemicals, but it's doing the same thing. The only difference is between the mushrooms and that I've noticed so far is that ketamine only lasts for like 3 months or something like that. You have to go pretty often, whereas the mushrooms
Oh,
can
I
last quite
see.
some time. I think the mushrooms also there's studies done that show that it actually repairs like your nerves, neurons and things like that to your brain. So if you have some disconnections from traumas, they are being reconnected by the mushrooms, a natural thing. And I just find that so fascinating, you know?
It is. It's awesome. It's the reason
Yeah.
I started this podcast because of myself, just growing up Jehovah Witness. It's so
Mhm.
you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to like this. You're made to feel like you're an evil person because you like fucking Pokemon or something. It's just essentially, or
Yeah,
card
like,
game that it's insane. It's
yeah,
stupid, and then we're the ones fucking up, and that's where the trauma settles in. And these
yeah. We,
psychedelics are just fucking they're rewiring everything that was taught that
yeah.
everything that taught us that was so evil. Ironically, is what's helping us pull through.
That's exactly right. And it makes sense
It's
why they
weird.
say don't do like drugs or don't do Satan's gonna enter your brain. It's like,
Yeah.
no, what happens is you actually
Damn.
figure out that everything you've been doing, like you were
Yeah.
being controlled and like
The
you can't be your true
Matrix.
self. Yeah. So that's what I felt like on the second day. I was just like I was getting downloaded information like the Matrix. I felt like that was going on for a few hours and I was like, you
Oh,
know what? I don't think I was like, I did really well on the journey. I stayed put. I didn't like scream out loud. I reacted a little bit, but it wasn't anything. There was facilitators there that were not on the medicine. They were fully there for your own safety and your health, your own
that's so cool.
care. And I would sometimes I would kind of like take my mask off and look because I'd hear all the stomping like cuz like the ground was like very noisy when people would walk. So, and I was laying on the ground on a mat, and so whenever the facilitators would like somebody would start screaming, you'd hear like stomp, 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 like running over to their bed where they're on the floor and like go and like put their, hold their hand or rub their back or whatever they're doing. So sometimes I take my mask off because one girl was like running around the house, like having a fun time. I was like, what is she doing? And I was like watching her and then yeah, the next day she's like screaming, like a deep screaming, crying. And I was like, man, I didn't do any of that. I just laid there with a smile on my face the whole time. And all like when we talked about our journeys, like each day and like the things we're going through, I was the only one that was just like, it was amazing. I can't wait till tomorrow. Like, this
That's
is all the stuff
cool.
I was learning. This is what's going on. And everybody else was like, oh, I don't know. I'm just so out of it. And I don't know. Like, they were just like still this confused mode almost. I don't know where they were at really, but it was just like, they felt like it was just heavy. It was very heavy for them whatever they're going through. One lady was said she was the oldest. She must have been in her late 60s, early 70s or something like that. And she was like having images that were very scary on the first day of like ancestral trauma, like things she didn't go through but
Whoa.
her ancestors did. Like of she was saying she was a little girl and like or like she was watching, I don't know if it was her involved or I can't remember, but she was saying it was like a storyline where it was like there was people coming into their village and they needed to get out of there because they were taking all the girls to like kill them or rape them or something like that. So she it was very scary and it was like ancestral stuff for her and I was just like, oh
Dang.
gosh, like I'm glad I didn't go through anything like that. Who knows like what I would have had to deal with in my ancestry, like all of us have crazy ancestry history. That's scary stuff that there's no reason. It's not going to help you. I don't think, I mean, I haven't done enough research, but I don't think it's going to help you to like know about it and to kind of get through it and if you never experienced it. But there is research in psychology and stuff about ancestral genetics and things that people have gone through that can affect the relatives later on in life and can affect you living now depending on your stuff your ancestors went through. So it's a whole
Yeah.
nother topic that's really interesting. So maybe
I've
on her
looked
end
into
she was
that.
going through that. Yeah, did you?
I've came across something about that. There was this scientist who tested rats in like tubes. It was almost like it was almost like they were going through sewage tunnels, but whenever they came up out of the water into a wrong tunnel, they would get a
Uh-huh.
small little zap.
Uh-huh.
And then like generations down when there were these same rats that would go up the wrong tube, get zapped,
Yeah.
or their offspring would go up and when they would go up into a certain tube, they would display like anxiety, almost like they're expecting a shock or something.
Wow.
Like there
Yeah,
was a
that's
test
amazing.
done about that, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like that's interesting." But there was something along
Yeah.
those lines.
Yeah, so think happens with the a rat that has such a small brain, you know? Like, think about what probably is going on in our human brains and, like, dealing with old ancestral stuff. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
that shit's
weird because
fascinating.
yeah, before I even got into any of that stuff, I always had an attraction to, Japan, and I didn't know why. It wasn't like I was into anime because I wasn't. It's not like I
I
just
love
the
anime.
yeah, the language is, like, really beautiful. I think the language is great. I think that I was always fascinated by them being, like, high tech and all that kinda stuff, and I was but I never really met a person from Japan. I didn't really eat a lot of Japanese food at the time, like, I remember being, like, a teenager saying, like, I wish they were teaching Japanese at my school, I would totally take that." But I didn't know why I was, like, attracted to it, and then when I finally went to Japan, I felt like even though I didn't know the language because I didn't study it enough before going, I literally felt like I was home, and I was like, "Why do I feel, like, so comfortable here?" There's I was like, "I wonder if, like, if, sometimes I like the beauty and the idea of past lives, and I just think, like, what if I really was Japanese and somehow in my past life, and, like, I'm coming back to my country, and it just feels right. It feels comfortable. It feels, like, not scary at all. It was just like, "Oh, I'm back home," even though I'd never been there before. It was like that kind of comfort, and it's just
That's
interesting to
cool.
think, like, where's that come from? Why? Like, I have no reason. It's not like I said, it's not like I had some strong attachment through like their culture or the anime or like watching lots of Japanese movies. It was just like a natural thing for me, and I went back several times, and I miss it all the time. Like I just want to go there. Looked into like how to live there, like all that kind of stuff.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but
Just
yeah,
something
I just
about the
I just find that
culture.
interesting. Yeah, it's like
That's cool.
something could be a past life thing. I don't know. I've never done any past life readings with anybody, but I don't know if I should or
There was
not.
there's this podcast, this what's his name? Aubrey Marcus. I don't know if you've
Uh-huh.
listened into him,
I
but he's
haven't.
a big psychonaut dude, really big into
Yeah.
psychedelics, and he had a guest, and I guess this dude, I wish I could remember where I have that podcast saved, but this guy wrote a book about this said past lives that he remembers so vividly, and like I guess he has
Wow.
scars to show, but there's certain
Oh,
like it's weird. It was an interesting one, and that's where I first heard
yeah.
about that, and I started looking into it more. And it's true.
Yeah.
Like, what if you were of some sort, some Japanese
I
anything,
lived in
and
Japan at some
some
point, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then here you
I
are
could have been
visiting.
male, female, I don't know. I could have
Yeah,
died
here
at
you are
age 2, who
visiting.
knows?
You're
Yeah, and
visiting,
I'm
reconnecting to
mhm.
the Japanese Wi-Fi internet of the universal whatever at the time,
Yeah.
and here you are tapping
Yeah.
in again. Who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, as far as like psychedelics go, I just feel like I now feel like I have an attachment to mushrooms in general. I think they're just an amazing after having that, it literally is medicine. It's medicine for your mind, your body, everything. It will completely change everything about how you're going to think and move forward in life. And it just made everything easier because I think like growing up as a witness, you're like, "Oh, who cares about death? Like I'm not scared to die." But then when you're not a witness anymore, you're like, "Oh, well then what do I believe in?
Yeah.
What's my hope? I don't have a hope anymore. So what do we do when we die? Oh, that's scary because I don't know." And it's like you
What is
had
your
this
stance
thing.
now?
I don't what is it called? Is it agnostic, I guess? Like I don't call myself anything, but like I guess somebody who doesn't know for sure if there is a creator or not, but like
Yeah.
even after my journey, I'm still kind of like I think there's I still can't basically I'm at the point where I'm okay not knowing. Before I was like this is scary. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
Do not bring it up in my mind, but like after my journey, I'm just like, "You know what? I'm okay." And that's the thing about the mushrooms too is like they do end of life journeys for people who are scared to die. They have cancer, they have a diagnosis or prognosis, whatever it's called, that they have so many more months to live. And so like those people, you know, are flipping out, freaking out about dying and
Yeah.
leaving behind their family and kids and whatever. And so they do these journeys and then they feel much better and at ease knowing that that's their fate. That's all our fate. That's what's just going to happen. So I think the journey just helps get through that. And I'm still working on that mentally. I feel like I need definitely more to like get through it and have a better clear understanding. And it's okay to not
Right.
know. You know,
It
you
definitely
just
is.
come
It's okay to
yeah,
be
you just
wrong.
it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not know. It's okay to not have a specific strong idea of what's to happen. It's just nice to go through life just thinking like it is what it is. We'll just figure it out, you know, just
Yeah.
not being so strong in your mind about one belief or another, you know, especially one that
Yeah.
you're forcing on other people. It's like I'm here to just explain my journey and explain to people, and I can help people also if they need advice, you know, or whatever. Like I feel like that stuff is easy for me to do to help others if they need it, but I'm not. I know now to not let myself get super involved, and I learned now how to have boundaries and to set boundaries for my. I've already kind of been setting boundaries, but now I'm really good at it. Before I was always really intimidated and timid, and now I'm like, no, like I'm a
Good.
leader.
You
I'm a
have your
leader.
life
Before I was
back.
like, oh, I'm a follower, and like always okay with that, but I was not okay for a while. But now I feel like I'm ready to lead. I feel now the power that I have, the energy, physical energy going through my body. It's helping me more with my job, like the idea of like the job that I have, like doing it for 20 years, like I feel like that's just advanced just through the medicine, you know, the mushrooms going through my body, making me feel like a
Yeah.
powerful
Doing its
person.
thing.
What we're all able to do. Like you put your mind to something, you can do it. And you don't have to fake yourself through it. You could feel it, you can know it, you can do it, you know.
Yeah. You
And
don't need to pray to a god. You yourself are a god in a way. Like you can achieve
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, and I don't feel like that's selfish at all to just be like, "Oh, I don't believe in anything that created me," or "I'm just gonna do what I wanna do." I don't feel like that's selfish. I feel
No,
like
I
that's
don't
just
think
what we're
so.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I
I've
fall into
just
the
been
same category.
yeah, it's just easier to live life that way, I feel like. Let yourself just work,
Yeah.
you know, go through life the way it is, and if something's bothering you, figure out what's bothering you and fix it, you
Yep.
know? Try to solve your problems and make good choices and learn from your bad choices, blah, 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 all that stuff, you know? But I've
Exactly.
just been afterwards, like I just was microdosing too, because the company had the made capsules, which was a mixture of lion's mane, the mushroom that I did take on the retreat was in it, and possibly
Nice.
niacin. I think niacin was added to that as well. And that's kept me super positive. I didn't take it until like maybe a month or two after I was done with the retreat because I wanted that macrodose to still stay in my body and help me mentally go through with things. But then the microdose is making like putting my energy up, my vibration energy up really high, super positive, like like no anxiety. I was taking anxiety supplements. Like I don't really take medicine, but like I was taking anxiety supplements that seemed to help a lot, but then I just stopped taking it because the microdose has been doing really well. So, and then I've just been
That's
putting
awesome.
people in my life that they're all about it. The people who are making up their own retreats, and I've been talking to them, and I've been talking to people about what kind of schooling I can do to get into the field because one day it's going to be legal and it's going to be all over, and I want to be a part of it. So I was
Yeah.
realizing like, what can I do? So I'm going to school to be a nurse, and then also just be a facilitator. I want to be in the room with somebody during their whether it's ketamine, mushrooms, whatever. Because right now ketamine is legal, so there are facilities where you pay it's like $500-$600 for a session, and then you have a facilitator in the room with you that will hold your hand or give you water or just so that you don't feel alone when you're going through that deep stuff. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
That's
like
so
my plan is to
badass.
get into it. Yeah,
That's
yep,
cool. A way of giving back and helping. That's exactly what the whole on the subreddit ex Jehovah Witness trips. That's the reason I made that, just to put out information, a risk reduction source. So if
yeah,
you have anything you'd like to share, if you'd like to just post it on there for anyone,
yeah. I'll do that for
anyone, just
sure.
lurkers, whoever's curious, hopefully it helps them out with just like it's helped us, and they can gain their life back. It's like no one deserves to live like that in fear. It
Yeah,
sucks.
and that's like on that XJW Reddit page, there was a guy that somebody was complaining. I think they were saying, "Oh, I'm so depressed. I don't know how to deal with things. I'm trying to fade out and this and that." And this guy wrote a comment on there, and he was just like, "You need to do psychedelics." And I was like, "What?" So I messaged this guy. I sent him a personal message, and I was like asking about his experience a little bit. He didn't tell me much, but I was just like, "Yes, all these people who've been indoctrinated, like will benefit so much from psychedelics, and he was like going like telling me, yeah, and he sent me a list of all these books to read that are on like psychedelic topics and all like the professionals out there, the doctors and the studies and all that people who've been in it.
Sweet. I wonder if he has a few
Yeah.
books that I've listened to. I'd love to get in contact with
I'll
him if you can send me
yeah,
his
I'll send
way.
you that. I'll send you that list. And I'll ask him. I sent him a message recently. He didn't get back to me because I'm only messaging him on like as a direct message on Reddit. But I'll try messaging him and seeing what he wants to do if he doesn't mind getting in contact with you. But like I said,
I'd
he
love to
said he
hear
was
his
really
story. That
busy.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, because he's even like he decided to even grow the mushrooms. I think it's legal where he lives, and then he's giving it out to people for free. He said that his son also was the one that turned him to it, and him and his son will trip together like once a month. That
That's
were they
so
were all
cool.
witnesses once. So yeah, they're like all
Damn.
just tripping together. Yeah.
And my family's all
Yeah.
physically in, mentally in.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
If only I could trip with my dad. That'll be the fucking day.
I know, right? Sometimes I think about my mom doing it, and I just like, when they're so brainwashed, they're just gonna be like, I can't do
Yeah.
something like that. But what the weird thing is, I have a
Uh-huh.
friend that's super in it, and she always has been, and she's a super depressed person. She's very sickly, and she's even tried. She almost killed herself once. She took all these pills at once, and they were able
Oh
to
no.
like, yeah. So, and I remember my older brother because I was still a witness kind of at the time when she did that, and I remember telling my older brother who's been out for a long time, and he's just like, that's weird she'd do that. She's a witness. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not like just because you're saying you're fully in and you're fully a witness doesn't mean you don't have severe depression issues to get to the point
Yeah,
where
they're
you
still
probably kill yourself.
human.
Yeah, they're still human. And
We're trained to be these 100% robots that are like perfect and divine, but no, we're still humans. We're
yeah,
sinners.
that's exactly right. And then she told me recently, she's like, don't tell anybody. She doesn't know I'm not a witness, but like, she's like, don't tell anybody, but I've been doing like ketamine therapy. And this is before I've even gotten into psychedelics myself. And so I didn't really know much about it at the time. And so I just thought, oh, it's just some medicine you take that helps you with depression and PTSD or whatever. But it's like on the same line as the mushrooms, basically. And so I was like, man, that's awesome because she's not telling anybody. She doesn't want anybody to think anything. And
Yeah.
she hasn't described much to me either. But I remember one time I was with her recently and I was looking at something and I think we were looking at a unicorn or something. I don't know what it was, like a stuffed unicorn. And she's like, oh yeah, I've like imagined myself riding on a unicorn and around rainbows and stuff during my ketamine session. And I was like, what? That's cool.
Damn.
But I know she like probably told me because she knows I'm not going to judge her or go off and tell anybody. And I don't really know all her main friends because she lives in a whole other state. But
Yeah.
but I think it's like funny because she's not looking at it like, oh, well, during that time the Satan and demons can enter my brain. It's just like she's
Yeah.
looking at like, hey, I got this PTSD and depression, and if this is gonna help me, I'm gonna do it. And it's helping her feel better
Good.
and to get over some of her crazy trauma she's had happen to her in her past. Yeah, but she has to do it like every 3 months and pay out of pocket because insurance isn't paying for that treatment yet.
Damn.
So yeah, probably like $2,000 a year, basically. Do it every quarter, but 2,000 is not that bad. I mean, my retreat for two full days of a macrodose was $3,000. So
And what's $3,000 for a life-changing experience?
yeah, I mean, it would have taken me 10 to 15 years of talking to one-on-one with a psychologist to probably not even get to where I got. Like, how
Yeah,
much money would have that been out of pocket, or
for
time?
reals. And another thing that
Yeah.
I like to think about is, so Jehovah himself created all these plant psychedelics, but
Yeah.
government makes them illegal. Jehovah's
Hmm.
Witnesses don't side with the government, so why are them to be illegal when Jehovah created these fucking medicines for us, yet we're siding with this government that we claim not to? So it's like double standards type of shit.
Yeah.
So it's like this is literal medicine that Jehovah is giving us, but yet they'd rather take pills from the doctor because the doctor says it's okay.
I know,
It's
that's the
nuts.
interesting part. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, because like they won't do the mushroom journey, but they'll do a ketamine journey and just keep it hush hush amongst their
Yeah.
friends.
Damn.
Because it's like, oh, it's legal, but like when mushrooms become legal, it still has a stigma, like this crazy psychedelic, where
Yeah, these
ketamine does
evil
not have that.
kingpins.
Yeah, ketamine does not have that stigma, and so, but once, like, how long is it going to take before the stigma is gone with mushrooms, with magic mushrooms,
Oh,
as a
in
medicine?
time.
Yeah,
Only
it
in
should
time.
eventually. The witnesses will still choose the ketamine over, even though they're both fully legal at some point, they'll still choose
Yeah.
the ketamine because the stigma behind the psychedelic part. But the ketamine is a psychedelic. Like I haven't done it yet myself, but it's like it totally is. And so I don't know, it's just funny.
I've
But
never
I
done
think
it.
yeah, I feel like because of with me doing that MDMA, I hated the way I felt after. And like I didn't know as a side effect you like clench your jaw. My jaw was hurting so
Oh
bad that
heck
night. Like I
yeah.
just kept clenching and clenching and I was like, "What's wrong
You
with me?"
need
They're like, "Oh,
gum.
that's a side effect." I was like, "Oh man, I didn't know that. It sucks." But then the next day was
Uh-huh.
fine and I didn't take it the second day because you only should take it once with the macrodose. Like if you're doing two macrodoses in a 2 times in it, whatever. 2 days in a row. Yeah. But I don't
Yeah,
know,
I've
like
read
I
that.
think the microdosing stuff, there's something with that too. And the thing is there's still a lot of studies going on with microdoses, macrodoses, but the results are mostly amazing for
Amazing,
people.
right?
So
It's all
yeah,
positive.
so
It's only
amazing.
helping people, and it's like, why aren't we funding this?
Yeah, and they're trying. I mean, even I don't know why Rhode Island is such a small state, but they just whoever's the government over there, they just made it legal, but they have to put all their
Cool.
everything together to make that happen. Just like Oregon made it illegal, but you can't just walk into a dispensary and get a microdose or like get any mushrooms at all. You can't do that. It's legal, but they're still trying to get all the paperwork and like law stuff together and in print before
I
they're allowing
see.
people to fully make it legal to like have a facility just like a ketamine facility. They're trying to do the same exact thing as a ketamine facility, but with using the mushrooms instead. Um, but yeah, you were saying about the government, like the witnesses, like they don't trust the government, but they listen to what they say is legal or not legal. But the thing is they 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 have to listen to the government up until the point until they say like unless if it's interrupting with their faith,
Ah,
and their
that's right.
actions.
Yeah,
That's the only thing. So if
theocratic
the government
warfare.
yeah, so if the government deems something illegal, like this illegal drug, they're not going to say, "Oh, what does the government know? I'm going to do what I want to do." No, because they must have made it illegal for a reason.
Yeah,
And
you're
also
right.
also the main scripture too, there's a scripture that says like you can't something like uh, you can't rely on humans or yourself. You have to rely on God. And so if you're like, you know what, I'm going to rely on myself because I think this will help me, but then actually what I'm trying to get at is like there's a difference between like I felt like being a witness made you feel like you're not allowed to think for yourself because it doesn't lead you anywhere. So
Yeah.
everything is black and white. So it's like you can't do this 100%, you can do this, it's okay. And so there's a lot of gray area that you would question and be like, well, I mean, I think I could do really well. Like I could probably smoke weed and not be addicted to it, like it's fine, or like even if it's smoking, it's going to bother my body. Why don't I just do something else that's like an edible, right? I could take marijuana
Yeah.
as an edible. It's not going to be negative to my body, but it'll help my brain to like reduce my anxiety or reduce my pain or whatever, and be okay with it. But they're just like, nope, not at all, nothing at all, nope, nope, nope. It's like, but then the weird thing is that they allow you to drink alcohol, which people can easily overdrink, and they do, or they can become
Uh-huh.
alcoholics. So there's no like black and white with that, which I think is interesting. But
Yeah,
there
you're
is like with
right.
so many other things, it's to control you so that you don't go out of control. I think that you could
Moderation.
just trust yourself whether you're going to be out of control with it or not. Like that should be your own choice. And so, yeah, but it's weird that alcohol. It's weird to say like,
The alcohol thing. It's funny because there's a few people I remember in the congregation that they would have a few drinks, but by the end of the night they were tanked, and everyone just acted
mm-hmm.
like they weren't. Like what?
Yeah. I remember like just going to parties, like I'd get invited somewhere, my friend and I would just like we'd get like a flask and fill it with alcohol. We'd show up to the house, like it'd be like a house in the country or whatever, and we'd just be like downing it in the car before we went in because
Cool.
because we both had like social anxiety, and so it just helped us to not have to think as much and be so scared. And then yeah, so I remember like my friend and I would do that a lot. We'd be like, all right, did you get some like, flavored vodka? We just like down it in the car, like as we were already at wherever we're at, we down it before we went in, and like
Damn,
And it's
that's
like,
funny.
and there might be alcohol there too. We just like drink as well. But yeah, I would go to certain friends' houses who were like, you knew the friends that certain friends that were like, love to drink. I remember one girl, she was like, she was married, had kids and whatnot. And she's like, I'm going to stop drinking alcohol. I've been drinking way too much. And it was like her, like, she felt like she told herself it was like her last night of like freedom of alcohol. And I was like, looked over at her, she's like downing like this, put the whole bottle up to her mouth, was just drinking it up. And I
Jeez.
was like, oh my gosh, like this is not like normal witness behavior kind of thing. But they
No,
kind of,
definitely
there's always
not.
people on the outskirts kind of. Her and her family were like that, like those people that don't really get invited to much, aren't really in the middle of the congregation.
Yeah,
But
they're out
yeah,
on the
yeah,
the fringe of it. There's a few families that I was most friends with those kids. Those were the fun
yeah.
ones. Those ones we go ride bikes and get into trouble and break things.
Yeah, just
Those
silly
were the
stuff,
fun
huh?
ones. Yeah, the silly stuff. It was
Yeah,
awesome. I loved
yeah.
that.
Oh, how
It's
how
cool.
often do you take like psychedelics? Do you try to like do it often, or did you only done it like once or twice?
I love them. They are the reason I'm where I'm at now. Well, at
Hmm.
first, what started out as just rebellious fuckers ended up being the
Yeah.
most therapeutic thing that happened, and it was like oh my god, there's something going on here, like what the fuck, like out of nowhere, I just know these things now, like I just understand, like
Yeah.
I just 20 years of I got I got disfellowshipped when I was just out of high school, so it was like almost 20. So it was like 20
Mm.
years of Jehovah Witness indoctrination squashed in one mushroom night type of thing, and
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there the next morning like I don't understand. Everything's backwards now. Like everything I once knew is literal
Mm.
shit now. It's like I'm
How
not
much
gonna
did
go
you
back
take
to
that
that.
time? Yeah.
I think it
How
was
much would you say?
3.5 grams, just the eighth.
Oh
Me and my
yeah,
friends
that's a
were just
lot.
messing around, and that was the main tipping point. And from then, I was like, something's going on here. And I tried
Yeah.
LSD and so forth, and it was just even more of an awakening.
You were already
MDMA,
disfellowshipped at the time or no?
what was that?
You were already disfellowshipped when you took it or before that?
I was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I already was at
Did you?
that time. And when I took it, that's when it helped me get through it even more. All that religious
Yeah.
trauma just processed, and then I understood it and
Mhm.
let it go rather than hold on to it and bring it with me everywhere I went.
Yes. Yeah. People are doing that, man, like decades of being out of being a witness and they're still holding it. But like you said, it's like
Let
part of their
go.
baggage they're taking with them.
Yeah,
And it's
let
hard to let it go.
go.
You can tell
It's
yourself, you
hard.
could tell your
Yep.
conscious brain, like, just let this go. I don't care anymore. It's not a big deal, or I'm far away from that. But for some reason, you're like I said, the issues in the tissues, it's like holding it
Uh-huh.
deep. It's like part of your suitcase, your baggage you're carrying with you every step you take, walk of
Everywhere
like
you
anywhere
go.
you
It
go,
sucks.
it's with you. And like just yeah, one pretty big dose of mushrooms or any sort of psychedelics can just eliminate that. That's why I'm kind of curious now, like if my friend that's doing the ketamine, if she's on that brink of like realizing things out, like you and I have realized, or if she's because or if she's trying really hard to keep her brainwashed mind still brainwashed. You know what I mean? Or is
Yeah.
she waking up? I can't ever imagine her waking up. Honestly, I can never, ever, ever. Her
Damn.
especially, there's no way she will, because it's just part of who she is, and she could just never. I can't. I'm sure she'll never imagine what it's like to not have Jehovah in her life. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if she's questioning now. I'm thinking, and she probably will never say anything, even if I asked her. She
It's that
probably will never
emotional
say it.
attachment,
Yeah,
that
definitely. Because
trauma.
what do people do when they don't have that hope anymore? That's the hard part. Is that's why people don't want to get away from everything and they don't want to be a witness. They still stay with it at least a little bit. At least going to the memorial once
Yeah.
a year or something like that because they
It's
feel
that
like,
sense of belonging, like at least have
yeah,
it in some sense. It's that nature to feel wanted. And it's like, well, either fake
yeah,
who I am to feel, or everyone that I only know hates me. And it
yeah,
sucks because that's where all the trauma comes even more. And
yeah,
people have committed suicide over that because they don't know
hmm,
anything else. They were never taught how to love. And
yeah.
it's
It's
horrible. It sucks.
yeah, and it's a fear. So you don't of the unknown
Fear.
again. You don't know what's going to happen if you leave. What are people going to say about you? Where are people going to
Yep.
how they're going to treat you?
The
What are you going to
judgment.
do now? You don't have that community anymore.
And
Yeah,
you're thinking like you are the one that's giving Jehovah a bad name, so that's even more of a
that's exactly right.
oh
Yeah, you're right. That's why
Fuck
I just left. It's
Jehovah.
like it's easy to fade out and just like move away
Yeah,
because
they
you're not
should.
having to like you don't look bad to anybody because you don't belong to any congregation in a sense. Like your old congregation is far away. None of the elders are talking to you. So you're not telling people like I'm not walking around. I don't ever feel like one thing I can't understand so much is like an apostate, like quote unquote apostate, somebody who feels like they really need to tell everybody about you're in a cult and you need to get out. I don't really
Yeah.
have that like type of mentality. I'm just like, you know what? I've seen people thrive as a witness and probably it worked for them. It helped them be a better
Yeah.
person and that's what they need. So why would I walk around trying to tell people they don't need that? If they don't know how to be normal in society, they're probably gonna be addicted to strong drugs and be homeless or get to some extreme point because that's just how some people can be. And being a witness helps them not be that. Then why would I make them or like get mad at them that they're not listening to me and trying to
Yeah.
understand they're in a cult, like, you
Let
know, like
them
why do
let
that to
them do
people?
it.
Let them do what they feel comfortable for because it's not easy to get out for one. Like some people it's even harder than others because you can be living at home at 17 and you have an elder as a dad and like you're
Yeah.
wanting to leave. Like it's not that easy. And so I'm just not the type to like be this activist and like go out and protest and be like get out, you know, at the conventions or something and be like this
Yeah.
is a cult, you know, it's just not me. I don't understand it either. I mean, I kind of do, but I kind of don't. I'm just like
It's not
leave people
necessary.
alone. Yeah, it's not necessary. It's a waste of my
Yeah.
time and energy. So I'm not going around trying to like making God like Jehovah have a bad name. And like I don't feel like I'm doing that. I just disassociated from that. But I'm still hanging around with friends that I grew up with, the ones that know me well, and I'm not being transparent with them. And for a while I was like really mad at myself. I was like, I need to give them the opportunity to with me or not. And I was mad that I wasn't
Right.
being transparent and that I'm not faking it like, oh yeah, I'm go like sometimes
Be
they'll ask me a
genuine.
question and I will lie. I'll be like, oh yeah, I've been like going into my Zoom meetings or whatever. Like I lie, but I don't go into details because I
Yeah.
don't want it. But then I get mad at myself like, oh, I just hate that I'm not transparent because that's all I want to be. It's like a transparent person, but I can't do that. And then just recently I realized it's okay to not be transparent because these people are so brainwashed. And I was there once too. So I know
Mhm.
exactly what it's like to have a friend tell
Yep.
you they're not a witness anymore and what goes through your brain. I know
Right.
I
It's
was there.
tragic.
Yeah. So I just like, I just recently came to the conclusion it's okay to not be transparent because they're brainwashed. And if
Yeah.
I still want to hang out with them, then I'm just going to have to like still do whatever, like, you know, do what I got to do. But I know who I am. That's all that matters. Like
That's all that
it's okay.
matters.
Yeah.
Right.
Cuz I know
Your
if
authentic
they will
self.
feel yes, they will feel guilty if that they will call me or hang out with me and they will be upset that they have to stop talking to me if I tell them, "Oh, I haven't been a witness for this long," or you know, it's not me
Yeah.
anymore. I don't go to meetings, I don't go to memorial, I don't go to assemblies and conventions. Like they would be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, now I'm supposed to not talk to you. How awful is that?" Or they're
Look what
supposed
you
to encourage
did.
me. Yeah, or they're supposed to encourage me and I don't want encouraging words and I don't want to be prayed about either. I don't want people to pray about me and be like, "Oh, I just wish she, you know, come back." Like
Oh.
I don't want to be in people's prayers. I think that's weird. So that's why I just rather not tell
Yeah, don't
those
pray
who
for
I'm still
me.
choosing to be around, which is not often, but yeah.
All right. There's one quote that I really, really like that I always hold on to, and it's like, it's if you want to teach someone the meaning of life, then let them live.
There you go. Yeah,
And
that's a
that
good
right
one.
there, I love it. I'm just like, damn, for real. It's like, who the fuck am I to tell
Yeah,
someone how to be when I barely even know who the hell I am?
seriously. I know.
And
Yeah.
that's what
Like
stuck with me, and it's a great thing.
if you had an old friend that was a witness that was telling you about like being open and honest and telling you like I'm not really feeling this anymore, then you can tell them what you've learned or like what you've gone through to help them understand more or send them certain information to help them their eyes open more or whatever. But if somebody's like fully in it, there's no point to just go up to them and be like, you know this and you need to read this and you need to watch this on YouTube or whatever. Like there's
Yeah.
no point. But you know, if there are people out there that are questioning and they're just wondering, you could and they come to you, you can talk to them about that kind of stuff. But and that's helpful and that can feel good for you that you're helping somebody have a clear understanding about things because we all had to go through it. You know, we went through it.
Yeah. It's pretty
But yeah,
nuts.
I'm definitely looking forward to doing more mushrooms. I feel a connection to mushrooms probably more than I would with like LSD or like I said with ketamine just because it's chemicals. I
Yeah.
don't know if I would ever want to try ayahuasca, but there's like San Pedro. People are talking about like San Pedro cactus
Ah,
plant.
yes, mescaline.
There's yeah, there's hape, which is hape is legal, and you sniff it or some powder you
Oh,
sniff.
it's
I
like a
think it's from the bark.
snuff. Yeah, you sniff
Yes,
that shit.
I think I'm gonna do that sometime soon because the people from the retreat are doing these like free little like gatherings from people who are part of old retreats from with them, and hape is one of those things they're gonna do. So I was thinking of doing that.
Nice. Well, when
Yeah,
you
they're doing
do, I
other.
would definitely have you on again and we could discuss that and
Yeah,
you could
talk
break it
about
down.
hape. Yeah, I know, right? I know. I don't mind like coming on like every time I have some sort of experience with some other
That would be
psychedelic.
awesome. I'd love to break
Yeah,
it down with you, and I would love to learn more myself. I've never done
yeah.
it. I would love to do mescaline. I am getting a hold of some San Pedro cactus and
That's
giving
pretty
that a
easy to
shot
get a
at
hold
some
of.
point, and we'll see. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly from what I've seen and all that. It's pretty cool. But we've been talking for over an hour and a half. That's pretty
Yeah.
kick ass. I didn't think we would go this
Yeah.
far, but that's awesome. I love it. That's a lot of information. You've had me held on the whole time. You had a great story.
Oh,
I'd
good.
say this
I'm
is a
glad.
great place to end it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. We'll talk more in the future too, when we both have different experiences. So I want to keep in
Perfect.
contact with people who have been on similar journeys as myself, you know. A lot to learn.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, I'm all on board with that. We could definitely just break down certain scenarios, and just since you were raised in the same situation, and there's
Hmm.
tons of others that this podcast can read, and hopefully it can help them as well, just like it's helped us.
Hmm.
That's the main
For
cause
sure.
to help.
That's great. Yeah, you're doing something good for sure.
I'm stoked. Hopefully it does.